Hi, everyone, and welcome to People Potential with Amanda. Thank you for listening in today. I'm your host, Amanda Fleising, and I'll be bringing on various experts to discuss empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their full potential. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of People Potential with Amanda. Today, I am thrilled to have Mohannad El-Barachi as my guest. And Mohannad, let me introduce you to our auditors so they know what a treat we're in for today. So he is a venture builder and investor, and most recently co-founder of WRK, WRK, for those who want to look it up. So Mohannad is a tech entrepreneur, investor, executive, and business strategist. And after moving from Egypt to Montreal at age 7, he went on to graduate with a university degree in computer science and political science before taking on various executive positions. So his experience spans multi-industries and disciplines, including the launch of multiple successful businesses and product lines in all kinds of industries, from automotive to digital marketing. So most recently, before this business, he co-founded and led as CEO Sweet IQ Analytics Corp, which is a digital marketing platform that helped multi-location brands and marketing agencies increase in-store foot traffic via local search. And in April 2017, after raising millions of dollars in VC funding and driving the company's 4 consecutive years of 300+ % growth, he led the company to its acquisition by Gannett, owners of USA Today, so a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded news and media company. So what a background. And today, Mohannad is strategic advisor and investor in several technology companies and venture capital firms, and CEO of another venture, WRK Work, which we will talk about a little bit today. Mohannad, welcome, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Amanda. It's great to be here.
So let's dive right in to our first question. So what does people achieving their full potential mean to you, especially given your background and mission at work? Maybe let's start with, letting you tell us a little bit about what is that background and mission.
Yeah, starting with a loaded question. I like that. When we started off work, it came from a culmination of just looking at the industry and where the intersection of automation and technology and human beings were going to meet in the future, what a lot of people refer to as the future of work. And it became clear to us that while technology was an enabler for helping human beings accomplish more, and we can certainly relate to that in our work setting, right? Like we all work with computers, we all have Word and Office and spreadsheets and tooling to help us accomplish our tasks better. There are still a lot of tasks that we do that are frankly just very repetitive and mundane, and that can be and should be relegated to automation in some capacity if possible. And so as we started just taking a deeper look at what was really happening in the industry and where that intersection between human and technology was headed to, it became clear that there was a little bit of a disconnect, and that human potential wasn't truly being accomplished with technology. In fact, everyone thinks and believes that technology is at this level where it can run things independently. And you hear this often with the advent of words like AI and machine learning, and that bots can do everything for you. But the reality is a lot of these automated or semi-automated processes are actually powered by humans in themselves. So sort of like imagine a machine that pretends to be doing a bunch of stuff, and then you open the door and there's a bunch of just humans running the gears or running into the proverbial hamster wheel. And so we decided to do something about it. And we decided to build an organization that would help individuals actually become a lot more accomplished and have better tooling and create a better intersection between human and technology, so that humans could leverage technology to deliver more versus the humans being the power of the technology that pretends to do it all.
Incredible. What a great first answer. We are off to the races. So let's continue to dive right into this. What tips and tricks would you give to HR teams? So our audience is mainly, comprised of HR leaders, HR teams, HR specialists who need to announce a workflow automation project to employees. So sometimes, that change management might be difficult. There might be some resistance. So how can they make their teams feel excited about the change and not worried about potentially being replaced by computers?
Yeah. The first thing that I would say is you have to frame the term right. Um, don't get bought into the jargon that the tech industry, and us being culpable of that as well, tend to try and proliferate a little bit. We have come to redefine the term automation not as getting your work done, by machines, but rather as defined as getting your work delivered at scale, ideally with machines, but not necessarily precluding anything else. And this is the interruption number one of every sequence. Hi, I'm just in the middle of something.
I'm hungry.
Okay, give me a bunch of minutes. Okay, give me 10 minutes. Sabrina, 10 minutes, please. Thank you. So we're gonna restart that, obviously.
We can keep going. This is live, and we all work from home. Not all, but many of us are working from home. So if you're okay, we can totally keep that in.
That's fine. You just all heard my daughter ask me for food. So,
and guys, that is the reality. That's what we're still living in. And up for another discussion is that a lot of us want to keep living in that reality where you have home life and your work life merging a little bit, but you still can have that separation. And quite a few people, I think we're at about 75% of the workforce, are choosing or are saying that they would prefer to continue working from home. So that's a conversation for another day, but I'm very happy to dive into that and to see that that's the reality.
Indeed it is. And I think that if in today's day and age, you're not going to include them into the conversation, then it's just a very odd dystopian universe that you're creating for them that doesn't actually really exist because they're born into technology. So this is very normal for them.
Yeah.
But listen, to answer your question, so like I was saying, the focus is just to change the term and its connotation internally. Automation doesn't have to be a bad word. It isn't about bringing in a bunch of machines that will replace the humans doing the task. Automation is the process through which we're going to be able to deliver our work at scale, which means let's actually understand what the beginning and the end of the entire process is, what the entire chain looks like. Let's break it down into the smaller pieces that make up the entire process. And then let's decide what is of better use to be given to a machine that can systematically repeat this task versus what best uses the human cognition that you provide as an employee so that we can do more of that, right? And I think if you frame the conversation around, let's think of your job as a person in the customer success team, and you have to generate reports all day long. Well, if we break down that process of generating a report into 5 steps, and the first 2 steps are you gathering data from a bunch of different systems and putting them into charts, and then the last 3 is you deciphering the chart information so that you can provide recommendations in the report and then make it look aesthetically pleasing. Well, I think it would reason that you probably don't enjoy spending time on those first 2 steps to go and gather the data and put them in a spreadsheet or in a chart. So what if we could get a machine to go and do these 2 pieces so that you could instead focus your time on the 3 parts that actually require your cognition, your sense of determination, your ability to be able to cipher the data into a meaningful way and to put it in an aesthetically pleasing manner. I think you would find your job a lot more worthwhile, and you'd be able to churn out a lot more reports. The client is happy, you're happy, and we're actually saving costs as an organization because now 20 or 30 or 40% of what you used to do, a machine is doing, which is cheaper. That doesn't mean that I'm paying you less. It just means you're producing more. So it really is about framing how the conversation needs to be had, and not that the machine is here to replace you, but that the machine is here to take off the responsibility from your shoulders of the boring, the mundane, the repetitive.
Absolutely. I love that. I know in marketing, we use some different automations, and I love the concrete example in CS of getting the data for your reports and then actually being the one to analyze and decipher it and create an aesthetically pleasing type of report and doing those different tasks that are at the end where you're using your skills versus just doing those repetitive tasks that taking those off the table. So love that, and I love the example. So let's jump into. We won't need to actually go into what automation actually does because I think that was a very concrete example that people can relate to. So let's change topics a little bit and move into what do you value in leaders? So an interesting tweet I picked up from you was about a candidate fitting perfectly on paper in terms of skills and experience, but you were totally turned off by them using visionary leader as a self descriptor. So, can you explain to everyone? I know we chatted a little bit about it, but let's tell everyone what about that was so off putting to you, and what would you give as advice on how to improve that for candidates?
Yeah. Look, for us as an organization has always been the case, whether in this one or as like you previously or any of the companies that I've been involved with. And I think just generally in life, we and myself primarily tend to value and focus more on authenticity than anything else. And I think, I'm not sure if I remember reading this correctly, but I think LinkedIn did a research or somebody did a research on LinkedIn titles, and something like visionary was in the top 5 descriptors that everyone puts in their title. When you really step back and you ask yourself how you should be describing yourself, there are titles that are earned and titles that are sort of bestowed onto you. You can't label yourself as a visionary. That's very pompous of you. And what we really strive for is to try and find people that are going to be authentic, that are going to be humble, that are going to want to come in and work and roll up their sleeves and accomplish together with us, not so that they can earn the accolades, but so that they can be proud themselves of the things that they've accomplished. And so for me, when someone tries to whether it's over exaggerate or over promote, like this whole top 30, under 30, or top 40, like none of these things matter to us, and they never will. If you really want to truly distinguish yourself through your work, not through titles. And we see this often more and more, especially as you start entering the growth phase of an organization, where titles become more and more important. And it's you'll see this often where in a startup, maybe it's a year old company, somebody will give themselves the title of a VP of sales or a VP of marketing, but the reality is that they're not. And it's not until you realize that you're now in your Series A or your Series B that this person that you've given this crazy elevated title to no longer fit the bill, and then you have a really hard time demoting them because now they're attached to that title. So in general, I just have an aversion around people labeling themselves things that they are or they aren't, depending on the nature of the position they're in and the space they're in. And so for me, when you label yourself as a visionary, well, what does that really mean? Does that mean that you're going to come in and just tell us how to think about things in the future? Does that mean that you are a visionary in the specific company that you're at for the 6 months period where you help them think about something? Distinction and differentiation for us comes in the form of, show me a project that's going to blow my mind, or show me an article that you wrote, or show me a video that you made, or show me anything. Titles don't mean anything.
Concrete examples.
Correct.
Is the way to win you over. So
always.
for those applying for any open roles at work, now you heard it live. Show up with some great examples of your work. And following up on that, what do you look for when recruiting that you would give as advice to HR teams, recruiters, and even hiring managers? Because I know, having grown a few companies, you must have recruited a lot.
Yeah, and we're still doing that. I think we've got something like 20 roles open right now. So please.
20 roles open, people.
Bring people on.
WRK.com, I would say.
Yes, correct. Right. WRK.com, work.com. WORK.com, incidentally, is owned by Salesforce. And so when we become public and buy Salesforce.com, then maybe we'll own work.com. I'm just kidding.
Never know.
Word of advice on the recruitment front. Well, listen, so first off, there's, I think, 2 tangents where we can go with this. The first one is, think about automating some of your processes. There's a lot in the HR flows that are very repetitive, whether it's taking resumes and putting them in your ATS, whether it's scoring the actual individual applicants, whether it's screening, and so on, right? Like there's tons of stuff that can be automated. Whether it's with us or with other solutions that exist out there, just find ways of being able to maximize yourself. Especially on the recruitment side, we work with a number of different recruiters, and they're either super bespoke, where they're going to go out and try and find this one unicorn that you desire and come give it to you, or they're a fire hose and it's just like thousands of just entries that go into your ATS. I don't know which one works better, honestly. And so we end up having this weird aversion towards recruiters in general, because we just don't know what we're going to get and which one's going to add value. And when you look at the value of the amount of effort and time that we spend in looking at resumes and deciding this is a yes or a no, versus the amount of money that we're paying in placement in the end, you're like, wow, okay, I don't think that the value really is there. So I think that there's a way in which this industry and the service gets shaped where it needs to be, in my opinion, results driven, but results driven really truly till the end. Don't expect us to do so much of the work and then still come in asking for your 15 or 20%, whatever it is that you're asking for. So that's sort of the one piece around automating yourself and then sort of differentiating and adding value a little bit. And then I think on the second flip side of it is, I don't think that there's enough work that goes into really understanding what the candidates are looking for in their career paths. And it just ends up being a very transactional relationship where, oh, you're a programmer, this company needs a programmer, let me match make and hope that things happen. I think that for us, we are starting to see, and we just went through this experience. We had someone come in, join, and left within a month. And we were very, very deeply disappointed in this, because we pride ourselves on not only offering great compensation package and paying really high and offering perks and all of that. And also we have a great, team and an ambitious plan and a company we're trying to take public. So we were dumbfounded a little bit, and it became, and when we had our exit interview with him, he said, listen, I'm really sorry, guys. You guys were my second choice. I wanted to go work for this other company because it's always been a lifelong ambition of mine. I even told the recruiter that I was waiting for this other company to make me an offer. And she instead said, well, listen, go work for work. And then if you get the other offer, then you can move on. So the interests weren't aligned, and we didn't understand from the get-go that this was this person's ambition. Now we've wasted his time, our time, everyone's time. No one wins. So I think there needs to be a better and clearer conversation around what the true and real objectives are, so that there can create alignment.
Yeah, frank conversation about you can ask, are we your first choice? Are you interviewing with other companies that would be your top choice? I think that's okay to ask. But also the culture fit is that, I mean, it's not exactly what you're talking about in this example, but we see actually many of our clients are tech companies, and we've had a lot of success using our culture fit product with them to make sure that their hires fit within their culture and their values. So their current culture, but also their aspirational culture. And that's been working really well for fast growing companies.
Right. Well, you're going to have to give me a discount code so that we can test this out.
For sure. Any final tips? So I know you were saying you want candidates to show you their work. So do you put them through a work simulation, or do you just look at their past work, and how many rounds of interviews do you do? And do you automate any of that?
Yeah, it really is very position dependent. Certainly if we're hiring for a UX position or a product position, this is, yes, I'd love to see the work that they've done in the past, but I want to know that we're going to be able to ideate together and draw together. It's a very collaborative type of setting. From a programming perspective, depending on the seniority of the position, you're not going to ask a team lead or a director or someone to come in and do a coding test. But certainly if we're hiring, developers or front-end folks and so on, yes, there's going to be some form of testing. We try and minimize the process. We don't really believe in multiple different rounds. The only time when this applies is when we're hiring a senior management, and this is less around looking for their qualifications and more around ensuring that there's going to be cultural fit, that they're speaking to everybody, where we tend to make decisions in tandem with our management team. And so if we're bringing in another senior manager, well, I want to make sure that they're going to play nice with everybody around the table. And so it's very important that we create that type of alignment early on. But I would say for us, it's a mix of, I'd love to see what you've done in the past, and I'd love to figure out how we can work tomorrow. And so we do a lot of, I guess you could call it simulations around, all right, well, it's Monday morning, it's 9 a.m. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Let's walk through it. Walk me through your day, and let's actually go through these exercises together. So it's a lot of off the cuff stuff. We try not to have too many manuals and procedures in terms of how to do things. It really is very dependent on the role and who's hiring for them.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with me and with our audience today. I think we got so much out of it and so many great tips and tricks, and learned all about what automation really is and how to frame that for your employees as an HR team. So just thank you for joining me, and I wish you all the best, and I'm sure we'll chat very soon.
Thank you, Amanda. It was nice being here.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of People Potential with Amanda. I appreciate each and every listen and view. You can find the show notes on the Success Finder blog, and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our newsletter for all kinds of value-added content. Until next time, stay curious.